everybody can hear me. Thanks for the introduction. I want everybody to know when we usually do these classes, usually do them in person. So this is the first time I've ever done it like this. So y'all bear with me, if listen more to the, pay attention to the PowerPoint and pay attention to my voice more than what you're seeing on the camera, because I have a face for radio. So please pay attention to what I'm going to tell you, not so much looking at me telling you that. The introduction for Gabriel is important. You know, everybody does introductions and talks about themselves when they do classes. I don't like to do it, but it's necessary because I want all of you to know out there that it's important for you to know that I'm qualified to teach you what I'm going to teach you. It doesn't matter what I've done or, over the past 25 years, it matters that I'm qualified to teach you this class. And I want you to know that up front. That's the only reason for that introduction. And that's so you'll know my name during the class. One thing I want to ask you guys before we get really started, how many of you guys came to work today and made a plan for when the active shooter comes through your front door? How many of y'all came into work today and said, what if today's the day? What if today's the day that there's a shooting in my building? What am I going to do? Or how many of us just came to work, got our coffee and sat down either at our desk or at home and didn't think about it at all? I heard something on the news a couple of days ago. It said, I think we've had like 253 mass shootings this year. 250. I don't mean 253 active shooters. That means 253 shootings to where more than one person was killed. And we all know that we're hearing about it on the news now more and more again about active shooter. If you came to work today and you didn't make a plan, if the shooter comes through your door today, if you didn't say, hey, what if today's today, then what we talk about in this class all the time, you're 15 seconds behind. You're already behind. You already have given that shooter 10 or 15 seconds to make you the next victim. And why is that 10 or 15 seconds important? It's important because it could be the difference between living and dying in these situations. We talk about it. I don't know how many listening have had this class before with me teaching it. And if you have, some of it will be repetitive, but it's important that it's repetitive because most of the time active shooters aren't changing. They're not changing. So the way we respond, isn't going to change as much. We'll adapt here and there, but it's not going to change as much. We have to be prepared. We have to be prepared as citizens if we're shopping, if we're at a restaurant, if we're at a concert, wherever we are, that we have to know that if an active shooter comes through that door or comes through that concert, that we're going to be able to respond, that we're going to save the 10 seconds. We're going to save the 15 seconds that we're going to need when them shots start ringing off and we freeze. This whole class is based around, for me, is not freezing, is making a plan, being prepared, and saving those 10 or 15 seconds that'll save your life. At the restaurant you're eating at, when the shooter comes through the door and starts firing, if you react immediately and the table but next to you does not react immediately, guess who your victim's going to be? You increase your chances of survival if you have a plan. That's the whole key to this class. That's what we're going to talk about today. And this PowerPoint, we're going to have it. We're going to look at it. We're going to draw points from it. But we're going to talk about the best way for you to survive an active shooter if you're to have one come into your building or wherever you may be. We talked about it before. What is an active shooter event? Yesterday, I was watching the video of the Las Vegas concert shooting, and the people watching the concert, and the girl was videotaping the singer. I forget who was singing at the concert. Jason Aldean was singing, and she was videotaping. Everybody was singing along and doing that, and you heard the first shots ring out, which were in the distance. You heard the gunfire start, and everybody in that area anyway kind of stop and look around and go, what was that? What was that? Then they went right back to singing the song and videotaping Jason Aldean. Well, 58 people died in that, where this guy was shooting 300 yards away. People heard the gunfire, but didn't relate it to what it was. Is it fireworks? You know, is it a backfire? What is it? By the time people react and by the time people figure out what's going on, you know, and start to move, 58 people died and a lot others wounded. An active shooter event involves one or more persons engaged in killing or attempting to kill multiple people in an area occupied by multiple unrelated individuals. That's it in a nutshell, guys. One or more persons engaged in killing or attempting to kill multiple people. An active shooter's thought when they come into a building is numbers. How many people can I kill in this amount of time? We talked about it before. You're on a clock. You're on a running clock. We know how long it takes for the police to respond, right? And I usually at this point, I would say, hey, anybody know? But y'all can't talk to me, so I can't ask that question. But I know because I've been doing it for 25 years. And I know that when the police get that call, it's going to take them 7 to 10 minutes to get to that call. And what I relate it to is for me shooting, and I'm a firearms instructor. I'm a SWAT guy. I kind of not anymore. I kind of pride myself on being a good shooter and somebody who is proficient with the firearm. I can shoot 2 rounds, you know, at the range from the holster, 2 rounds, 3 seconds, 2 rounds, 3 seconds. So I was talking to somebody about it on the way here today, and if an active shooter comes in the building, you just say, we talk about the 15 seconds that you're going to save if you have a plan, or if you ask yourself, what if today is today? If I can shoot 2 rounds in 3 seconds, I got a young high school young man here watching. So if I can shoot 2 rounds in 3 seconds, how many rounds can I shoot in 15 seconds? He says 10. I'm going to go with it because I don't know. Say 10. I'm going to say I can shoot 2 rounds in 3 seconds. In 15 seconds, 10 is the number. It's 5, right? You add to it. So 10 rounds in 15 seconds. If you don't react immediately, if you don't have a plan, if you haven't asked yourself, what if today's that day, and you freeze when that gunfire starts, that's 10 rounds in 15 seconds. 10 victims in 15 seconds. The guy in Las Vegas went on, he shot 58 people, and it was in no time at all. In no time at all, 58 people were dead. 10 rounds in 15 seconds is what's going to happen. So if you freeze and you don't know what to do in those 10 or 15 seconds, then you're going to be one of those 10 victims. The shooter and an active shooter, there's no set profile anymore. There used to be, we talked about 18 to 25 age group, white males, usually, but anymore we're hearing about active shooter. I kind of take that off the table and say an active shooter event can happen anywhere by anybody at any time. You have to be prepared all the time. It usually is something that has an injustice. In the workplace, what can it be? Workplace, it can be somebody just got fired, somebody who just got disciplined, and they're pissed off because that happened to them, and they're going to come in and seek some retribution. They're going to come in and say, you know what? My supervisor fired me. That's the person I want. I go shoot the supervisor, and then what? What does it matter now, right? I might as well take some other people out of it too. You pissed me off. You pissed me off. I'm going to open fire now and take as many people out as I can. It's about the number. A social or political goal, we're seeing more than that, more now, right? With our political unrest that's going on in the world. Somebody loves Donald Trump, somebody loves Joe Biden, and they feel like they need to, to support them by hurting other people. Regardless of their motivation to commit mass murder, their mindset appears to be similar in most events. Shoot as many people as you can, as fast as you can, before the police get there. So talking about 7 to 10 minutes it takes for the police to get there, right? If we even start doing those numbers, 2 rounds in 3 seconds. So you got now 60 rounds in a minute. So 60 times 7, 420 rounds in 7 minutes. In 10 minutes, the number just keeps going up. Imagine somebody coming into this building right here that I'm at and shooting 420 rounds, and he does it in 7 minutes, or she does it in 7 minutes. Are the police going to get there in time? No, we're going to get there after the fact. Most of these instances aren't stopped by police. They're stopped by you. They're stopped by citizens. They're stopped by citizens who are prepared. How many of you out there have weapons at work? Can you bring a gun to work? I'd say probably it's frowned upon, right? You bring a knife to work? It's probably frowned upon. But do you have weapons at work to protect yourself? Do you have a laptop? Do you have a staple gun? Do you have hot coffee? Do you have a chair? Do you have all these things around you that can be used as weapons? Have you ever thought about it? If you haven't thought about it, you're going to lose that 10 to 15 seconds. Shooter's deliberate, focused, detached, may be a bully, and is usually suicidal. In the Las Vegas shooting, the guy was suicidal. He shot as many people as he could. When the police made entry into his hotel room, he was already dead. Most people don't want to engage the police, but we're seeing a little bit of a shift in that, where they don't mind engaging the police when the police get there. Where do we see an active shooter? Anywhere. I was talking to my dad before I got here on the phone, and they're talking about doing an active shooter class at his church. And do active shooters happen at church? Do they happen at Walmart? Do they happen at Lowe's? Do they happen at work? Do they happen anywhere? Everything's on the table, guys. Everything's on the table. That we're hearing about this every other day now, and it's all over the place. It's anywhere. At Lowe's, at Walmart, at Food Line, at church, at the hospital, at the doctor's office, anywhere. The reason I say that is because you need to be prepared wherever you go. And the way to be prepared without, I'm not telling you guys to write out a plan and get it notarized and, show it to your family and go, hey, this is what we're going to do. You stand over here. It isn't that way. It's a matter of asking yourself, if somebody comes through that door today, what am I going to do? If somebody comes through that door today and means me harm, what am I going to do? What if that shooter comes through the door today? What's my plan? And if you don't have it, and I'm telling you, and we've talked about this, if you had this class before, when them shots ring out, I know exactly how you're going to respond. I know right now, if I pull my gun out and start shooting, I know how Miss Rawls is going to respond, because she's not expecting me to pull my gun out and start shooting. She's going to lose 15 seconds. Because she's going to say, what in the heck is Major Buie doing? He just fired a gun in here. That's the time you're going to lose, because your brain can't process that unless you have a plan, unless you have recently said, or in that morning come in and said, hey, what if today's today? And you made that plan. It takes 10 seconds, 30 seconds. What if today's day? What do I have in my office here that can help protect me? Can I barricade the door? Where's the exit? Can I leave? We've all had the run, hide, fight. We've all seen it. And I know a lot of videos, but you guys have probably seen the video. It's right. It's right. Those are your options. When an active shooter comes through the door, you can run away. You can go hide somewhere. And if all else fails, you have to fight. You have to know how to do those things. You can't run away if you don't know where you're running. You might be running right into trouble. You can't hide if you don't know where you're hiding. You need to have a plan, and that's what that plan is all about. My recommendation is, heck yeah, run, leave, distance yourself from the gunfire. That's the best way to protect yourself, is not be there. If you can't run away, you got to hide, right? You got to try to hide and hope they don't find you. Hide, put barricades in front of the door. tables, chairs, whatever you have to put there to stop the person from coming in where you're at. Because we discussed it, is that's about time. It's about time. The shooter is not going to take time to kick that door, try to breach that door, try to get in, because the clock's ticking. The clock's ticking. He knows the police are coming, or she knows the police are coming. So the longer that it takes for that person to find you or to get to you, the better your chances are. The better your chances are. And I always related. When I was talking to my dad earlier, because I would like to come in here and say, if you know what, guys, if I talk to you for 2 hours, you're going to survive an active shooter. But that's not the case. If I talk to you for 2 hours, I'm going to increase your chances of surviving an active shooter. Maybe just by 1%, but that's better than no percent, right? I'm going to give you a shot at surviving an active shooter. And I hate to I know Darlene's heard what I used to do to my son when he played baseball. As he played baseball and I was his coach, and we all talked about, hey, dad shouldn't be coach, right? That's right, because dad is a great coach to every other kid but his own. Much harder on him. And we talk about him going up to bat and watching the pitcher throw the pitches, and he just stands there. He don't swing. So another kid does that, and he comes back to me, and I support him and go, great job. You'll get him next time. Or my kid does that, and I go crazy. And I'm like, what the heck are you doing just standing there? Come here. So I told him, the next time you go up to bat, don't carry your bat. Just stand up there without a bat, because you're not going to swing anyway. So why even carry it with you? The point of that is that without the bat, without him swinging, he has zero chance of hitting the ball, right? Without us making a plan, unless we're extremely lucky, without us asking, what if today is the day, we have zero chance of survival. What I'm trying to give you is 1%. Swing the bat. Carry the bat with you when you go up there. If you're not going to swing the bat, you have zero chance of hitting the ball. If you're not going to make a plan, you're not going to ask yourself, what if, you're going to have about 0% chance of surviving this unless you're extremely lucky. So give yourself a chance. Make a plan. 40% of this happens in businesses, 29% in schools. Are we hearing about it in schools as much as we used to? It used to be schools was the thing, right? Schools, active shooter in schools. That's what related to, Columbine, elementary schools. That's what we related to, but it's happening less and less there and more in other places. Outdoors. We talked about the Las Vegas venue. How hard is it if you're at a concert? Think about this. You're at a concert, there's 100,000 people at this concert, outdoor concert, and a guy opens fire with a high-powered rifle from 30 stories up, 300 yards away. How hard is it to even process that that's happening? Very difficult, right? Because when I say the people heard the gunfire, they did, and they didn't relate it to anything. Would I have related it to anything? Probably not. Probably not. You're at a concert, you're enjoying the music. You may have had a few drinks, but this guy opened fire. And then finally, when people realized that people were being shot, they didn't know what to do. They didn't know where to go. You see them sitting in videos of people on this side of the wall, people on this side of the wall. Well, guess what? Somebody's on the wrong side of the wall. They don't know where the gunfire is coming from, so you don't know how to protect yourself. When you go to an event like that, if you make your plan, if something goes bad, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go this way, and we're going to get out of here this way. You make that plan, you increase your chances of survival. I'm like everybody else. I like going to a concert. We went to the PBR, Professional Bull Riders thing. Don't ask me why we went there, but we did. And I was sitting up there thinking, man, if somebody came in here shooting right now, what could we do to survive? And I had this really elaborate plan. And I'm thinking all this to myself, thank God, because I'd be here visiting y'all as a patient if it wasn't the case. Thinking about this quietly, what I would do if an active shooter busted out right now, that I would jump down from my seat 20 feet down onto the floor of the stadium and stop the active shooter. That was my plan. I was going to be the hero. I was going to jump down 20. We all know how that was going to turn out, right? I was going to jump down from my seat. I was going to miss the guy I was trying to land on, hit the concrete floor, break a leg, and get shot in the process. So my plan, I said I had a plan. I didn't say I had a good plan. I had a plan. But I had a plan. I was going to do something. So I went from 0 to at least 1% of surviving. We talked about run, hide, fight. This is another version. It's avoid, deny, defend, run, avoid, hide. You're denying them access to you. Fight, you're defending yourself. Right? It's the same thing. The same thing, just a different name because somebody copyrighted run, hide, fight, and they couldn't use it anymore, so they changed the words, and it means the same thing. It means the exact same thing. We're going to talk about a little bit what that means. It starts with your state of mind, guys. We've been talking about it, and I want to drive this. We don't do anything else today. I want you guys to understand to please pay attention to your surroundings. When you go somewhere, don't just blindly go somewhere and be a robot and do whatever you do. Pay attention to what's around you. When you get to the restaurant, look around. Look around. See who's sitting around you. See where you're sitting. See how you can get out of the building if it goes bad. Where's the exit? You know where the entrance is. That's where you came in. There is an exit. There is an exit. You may not, even if you don't see another door, there's another door because it has to have another door. So there is. If you don't see another door in that particular restaurant, then it's in the kitchen. That's the other door. Have an exit plan. Know how you're going to get out of there if it goes bad. Move away from the source of the threat as quickly as possible. We talked about run away. Run away. That's what I'm telling you to do. Run away. First and foremost, if you can get away, get away. If you can get out of your building or wherever you're at, run as far away from that building as you can go. Run away from the threat. As far as you can go, stay away from the threat as long as you need to until you know it's safe to come back. Don't come back to the building until you know it's safe to come back. Or somebody calls you and says, hey, where are you at? Come back. And Darlene and I have discussed it, and I know as supervisors, you guys want to know where your people are. You want to have a head count. You want to know, hey, where is everybody? You know, do we have everybody here? But what I tell supervisors, and they don't like to hear it all the time, is that you're going to get your head count. You're going to get it at some point, but don't get it by counting bodies. All right. They'll come back. They'll call or whatever the case is. There's no, don't have for active shooter. You can't have a safe place. Hey, we're all going to meet here when we exit the building so I can make sure everybody's safe and everybody's here, because a lot of times your active shooter comes from within, right? Does work at your building or may work at your building. And guess what? They know where the meeting place is outside. So I can come in and shoot 2 people, and then guess what? Just head to the meeting place and wait for all of y'all to arrive, and I'll shoot you all outside. It's important. And I know telling people that, they're like, oh, so if you have a fire, yeah, have a meeting place. If you have any other type of natural disaster, you can have a meeting place, but an active shooter is different. You can't meet at a certain place because the people are there going to know. The schools are the same way. We talk to school administrators and they say, hey, we just get on there and say, hey, it's code red, code yellow, code green, or whatever. Well, if your shooter's a student, they know what all that means. What if the student gets on the PA system and goes, hey, everybody, code green, and everybody unlocks their doors and comes back in the hallways? Certain things you got to do different, and this is one of them. When you run away, run away. And don't come back until you know it's safe to come back. The more distance and barriers between you, and the threat, the better. You know, make it hard for them to get to you. Make it hard for the shooter to find you because they got to spend time. And as long as they're spending time, the police are coming. And they know that. The whole time they're in here, they're on a time clock. They know right now they're easy targets. But when the police get there, they're going to have to confront somebody else that has a gun also. So they're on a clock. Make them use that clock. The more time they have to get to you, the more barriers between you, the better you're going to be. When getting away is difficult or maybe even impossible, keep distance between you and the source. When I talked about running, you got to know where you're running. I don't mean, hey, there's an active shooter in the building. You just take off running down the hallway. You don't know where the hell you're going. You know, you have to know where the threat's at, or you might run right into the threat. You want to make sure you're running away from the threat. The barriers, if you're in your office, if you're wherever you are, if you're in a room and you can barricade the doors with whatever you have to barricade them with, tables, chairs, you know, computers, whatever the case may be, pile them in front of the door. It's going to make that person work harder to get to you. And that's what you want. Turn the lights off. You know, darkness is your friend. You know, if you can't see, neither can they. Remain out of sight and quiet by hiding behind large objects. We talk about it and the difference between cover and concealment, right? And normally at this point, I would ask somebody, hey, what's the difference? But there's nobody here to talk to. So I'm going to tell you what the difference is. The difference is concealment hides you, makes it harder for somebody to see you, but it doesn't stop bullets. Cover stops bullets. So what is better? Cover. If you can find cover, what I mean by cover, a big tree, car, engine block. You know, you always wonder why the police, when the police stop you on a traffic stop, they come in sideways and they point the engine out. They're crooked. And, you know, a lot of times you may think that you just don't know how to drive. But what the officer's trying to do is put the engine block between you and them. So that way, if you come out of the car and start shooting at them, they have cover. They have an engine block of their car between you and them. That's the best protection they can have. If that's not it, then they want their door, which is a little bit of cover, but bullets can go through a door. How many of you guys watch movies and you see people dive behind couches and all that in the movie, and then the other person goes, damn, I can't shoot them. They're behind the couch. Will a bullet go through a couch? Yes. I've been to many homicides to where a person hiding behind the couch got shot because a bullet goes through the couch. Will a bullet go through drywall? Yes. Right through the drywall. You want to look for cover, something that will stop a bullet. That's your best protection. If you can't find that, then concealment is your next best friend. Try to hide where they can't see you. Silencing your cell phone. You guys are never going to remember to do that. I barely remember to do it for this class, so my phone didn't ring while I was doing this. None of us are probably going to remember that. If you do, good. Cut on silence, because the last thing in the world you want is there's an active shooter, you know, at Western Tidewater Mental Health Building, and your loved ones are hearing about that, and guess what they're going to do? They're going to call you, and you're hiding, and you got a really good hiding place. Now your damn phone's ringing because people are calling you. Now, so I know somebody's going to ask this question, or they're thinking it at least, is that when we run, hide, fight, or we're going to defend ourselves, what if we kill the person or hurt the person that's in this building? Do we have a right to do that? You have a right to defend yourself. You have a right to meet like force with like force. And you don't have the right. Right now, if Darlene came up here, because she's sitting in the room if y'all can't see her. She's my audience, so I got to pick on her. If she come up here right now and slap me in the face, and I pull out my gun and shoot her, is that like force? No. But if she comes up here and slaps me in the face and I slap her back, is that like force? Yeah, I've hit her back because she hit me. Now, if Darlene comes charging at me with a knife, and I shoot her, am I okay? Can a knife kill you? I got 25 years of law enforcement that says yes, all day long. It can. So you can meet like force with like force. I'm telling you that if an active shooter is in the building and you beat them, if you hit them with a fire extinguisher and that in turn causes their death, then I think you're going to be okay. I'm pretty sure you're going to be okay. Matter of fact, this class is kind of taught around if somebody is in your building shooting people, I want you to hit them with a fire extinguisher. And if they get up, I want you to hit them again with the fire extinguisher. And if they get up, I want you to hit them a third time with the fire extinguisher. I want you to keep hitting them with the fire extinguisher until they stop being a threat, until they no longer are a threat to anybody. That's what we teach. When the police come into the building, we're not coming in to kill anybody. We're coming in to neutralize a threat. Sometimes killing somebody dying can be a side effect of that. But we're coming in to neutralize a threat. We're coming in to stop the shooting. If you cannot run, if you can't hide, you got to be prepared to defend yourself. You have to be prepared to fight because your life is going to depend on it. If you lose, then you're going to die. It's that simple. If you have to fight that person that's in this building and this person's already hurting people and you lose that fight, you're going to die. But you have no other choice. You have to be committed to your actions. You got to be aggressive. You know, I know it's difficult for some people who have never been in a fight, or some people have been in many fights. And I'll tell you, for me, and so you may have heard this story before, but for me, I've had these situations to where you're in a fight and, you know, as a policeman, a lot of times policemen will say, oh, I got in a fight, which really is not a fight. It's the person you're trying to arrest is trying to get away from you. They're not trying to hurt you. They're just trying to get away from you. They don't want to go to jail. So that's not, to me, that's not a fight. A fight is when somebody's physically trying to hurt you, when somebody's physically being aggressive towards you, and they want to fight. And fights, for me, and I know you guys out there have been out there before where you've been in a fight or whatever, and all of a sudden you put your hands on the person and you start the confrontation and you're like, man, I wish I never would have put my hands on this person, because you realize immediately that they're stronger than you and you're like, oh, this is going to be bad. And I remember being in the fight and I'm thinking to myself, I just need to survive. You know, I need to hold on long enough to where my help will come and this guy will go to jail. And my goal at that point was not to get hurt too seriously and hold on long enough so my help would come and help me. And during the fight, we're going through it, and you know, I'm not winning, but I'm not really losing. You know, I'm surviving. So the guy, then the guy starts reaching for my gun. I feel him trying to take my gun out of my holster, and then I realized at that point that if I lose this fight, if I don't win, or at least hang on for the next 2 minutes, he's going to kill me. If he gets my gun out of my holster, he's going to kill me. And that's a humbling feeling, you know, when you're in a fight. And that's here when it says be aggressive and committed to your actions. Up to that point, I wasn't being totally aggressive. I wasn't really being committed to my actions. I was trying to hang on. But when this guy started taking my gun, then I became committed to my actions. I became aggressive because I knew that if I lost, that he was going to kill me. So I'll tell you what I like to finish this story by telling you guys I really did good, that I used some really good Brazilian jiu-jitsu moves and got him off of me and flipped him over and put him in handcuffs with a key lock and, you know, a couple knee strikes. And, you know, I did these awesome moves, but I didn't. And fortunately for me, the only ones there to see this were me and him. And I poked him in his eyes. I believe I bit him. I scratched him. I think I kneed him in the groin. None of these moves taught by the academy as a policeman, but it was really ugly. And I was fighting really, really dirty. but I'm able to teach this class here today because I survived. I didn't lose. I didn't win, but I survived. And I survived by being aggressive and committed to my actions and fighting as dirty as I could fight. And then when the other cops got there, I made up, I said, hey, dude, you ought to see me. I was awesome. That was before cameras. I was awesome. So I didn't have my body camera to show that I really wasn't awesome. Don't fight fairly. Was I fighting fairly? No way, no how. It's about survival. I have a son, I have a daughter, I have a 4-year-old grandchild that expects me to come home. They expect me to come home every day. And that's what I did. It's about survival. And it was very ugly. You call 911 when you're in a safe area. When law enforcement arrives, what do you do? What do you do? Put your hands up. Put your hands up. I want to see your hands. And guys, I know we've talked about this. And that's to police officers, that's what hurts you, is people's hands. They punch you with their hands. They stab you with their hands. They shoot you with their hands. That's what we're afraid of. And that's why you get, hey, please don't put your hand in your pocket or put your hands up where I can see them, because we feel so much safer when we can see hands and all that. So that's why it's not the time during that time to argue. Just if the police officer says, put your hands up, just put your hands up. If he was mean or nasty to you later, you call me and I'll take care of it. But put your hands up. When a police officer says, put your hands up, that's not the time to start arguing with them and say, I don't have to put my hands up. You can't make me put my hands up. Just do it. And it doesn't, if the officer's doing something wrong or bad, then I'll take care of that. But please just put your hands up. Show your hands, because that's what the police officer is afraid of. And this is what we're going to talk about. Bro, this is the bread and butter of the 10 or 15 seconds that we're going to talk about, that you guys are going to either keep or you're going to lose. And that's this is the meat and potatoes of this class right here. The 3 stages of a disaster response. This is what your body does. This is what your mind does when there's trauma, when there's fear. And not just yours, but mine too. Now, I don't want you guys to ever think that policemen are born with skills to see dead people, to see terrible accidents, to see people shot, because you're not. Your body and your mind is not built to see those things over and over and over again. It's just not meant for it to happen. So all of our bodies and minds go through this. The difference between mine and maybe Darlene's, and once again, she's the only one in the room. There's a couple of people that I'm not going to mention because I forgot their names. But Darlene is here, and her mind works just like mine. There's no only difference is I train to prepare myself to see these things and to do these things, and Darlene doesn't. So that's the whole purpose of what we're talking about, is I want you to prepare yourself and to train for this trauma before it happens. So that's what we're going to talk about. I'll tell you a quick story, and it kind of relates to this about being prepared and training and being ready. And some of you may have already heard this story, but I think it relates because I was in a situation. It was a burglary in progress. I'm the sergeant. We got 2 officers going with me. We go. I'm being a good sergeant. I'm showing up. And then I go to the call. I don't have to go to the call, but I go to the call. And say, I should go to this and try to help out. So I get there. I pick a side of the house. Officer shows up with a K9 with his dog. He picks the side of the house. And the other officer shows up. And I tell this because the other officer is a guy who runs marathons and does all the. You picture this. You got a guy who's in great shape with his K9, who's in great shape. You got another guy who works out 6 times a day or 6 times a week, is in great shape, runs all the time, and you got me. You got the sergeant. We're all surrounding this house and going, and we get there, and boom, here goes. Door opens up, guy comes flying out of the house. He, whose side does he come on? Not the dog with the guy with great shape, not the guy who works out 6 times a week, but the sergeant. He pops out my side. We take off running. We're going, we're jumping, we're running, jumping over fences, going through backyards, and I'm doing pretty good. And I'm kind of shocked, which you shouldn't be. That's a clue that if you're shocked that you're doing well, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. I ran into that with ceiling fan. I put it up, and when you flip the switch and it works, and you're like, damn, it worked. You shouldn't be surprised that it worked. If you are surprised, you probably shouldn't be putting the ceiling fan up. Anyway, I'm keeping up with this dude, and we're running, and I'm surprised that I'm keeping up with him. And then he stops, with his back to me. I don't know if y'all can see me, but he stops with his back to me. And when I stop, I'm immediately looking down the sights of my gun. I pulled my gun out, and I had no idea that I pulled my gun out. I didn't consciously think about pulling my gun out. It was just there. It was there, and I'm looking down the sights of it at this guy. He's like 10, 15 feet away from me. Back to me, I'm telling him, turn around, show me your hands. He's not doing either one of those. He's not turning around. He's not showing me his hands. So I got my gun out going. He takes off running again, and we continue to run. I holster. I don't remember holstering, but at some point I did. I holstered, start running again. We run. I'm keeping up, which once again, surprised. And he stops again. He stops, and this time he turns around, and he's got a knife in his hand. He's got a knife, and he's holding it up, kind of like a Jason movie, like this. I don't know if y'all can see, but he's holding it up like this. And once again, my gun's out already. I don't remember taking it out, but I'm already looking down the sights of my gun, and I have him. I have him. He has a knife, which is a deadly weapon. He's like 10, 12 feet away from me. I have a gun. He's made the mistake of, he brought a knife to a gunfight, and he stops, and he's looking, and he tells me to kill him. He says, well, shoot me. And I'm like, dude, if you take one step this way, I'm going to. And I was good with it. I'd already made peace with it, and I already knew I was going to shoot this guy. And I was like, all right, I'm good with it. I already in my mind had played it through. I'd already shot him. He already fell down, and all was good. But none of that has really happened. I'm running it through my mind already. And I tell you this because, and I'll tell you why in a minute, but this guy has a gun. He's sitting there, and he starts stabbing himself with the knife. And, we talk about, you prepare yourself. I was trained to have my gun out. I was ready to go, trained and ready, did everything right. When he started stabbing himself, I was like, Jesus, I wasn't ready for that. I was like, what in the world is he doing? And then I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do at that point, because I was thinking, damn, do I tell him to stop stabbing himself or I'll shoot him? What do I do? So he breaks the blade of the knife off in his chest. And, I'm still kind of freaking out. I'm still sitting, I still got my gun out, freaking out. And the guy takes off running again. He takes off running. Finally, these really in shape guys show up with this dog, and he's like, hey, put the dog on him. And I'm like, hell yeah, put the dog on him. So the dog chases him, and it is kind of a funny story because the guy survived. He did, and at the end of it, he thanked me for not shooting him. When I really, in reality, I could have. I had every legal right to shoot him at that point, but I didn't have to. I didn't have to shoot him at that point, so I didn't. Well, anyway, when he took off running, he had about a 50-yard head start on the dog. And anybody out there believes they can outrun a German Shepherd, you can't. He tried. And that dog tracked him down, and I say this all the time. He wasn't afraid of stabbing himself. He wasn't afraid of me shooting him. He was afraid of that German Shepherd, though, because that dog tracked him down and arrested him, as the dog would do. But then the guy thanked me for not shooting him. And I tell you this story not because of anything else other than the fact that when he stopped both of those times, my gun was out. And my gun was out without me knowing about it, without me consciously having to do it, because I trained for that. I was prepared. I knew that if he stopped like that, my gun just came out automatically without me having to think about it. And that's from that. I'm no different than anybody else. That's just training. You know, that's me preparing for that type of situation. That's what I'm asking you to do, is prepare, you know, pre-plan, know your surroundings, know what's going on around you, you know, and when that moment comes, when that guy stops, you'll be ready, you know, you'll make your decision and you'll go with it and you won't hesitate. If I'd have hesitated and not planned for that, when he turned around, I honestly believe today that what saved his life was me having my gun out. If my gun would have still been in its holster, we have a rule that's 21-foot rule that if my gun's in the holster and Darlene runs towards me from 21 feet away, that Darlene can get to me before I can pull my gun out and protect myself. So I really believe that this person did not do that, didn't charge me and attack me, because when he turned around, he realized, oh, I brought a knife to a gunfight because my gun was already out. That's why I tell you this story, not because that I think I'm cool, because you guys know me, know I'm not cool, but I trained and I was prepared and I planned. And when I needed my gun, it was there. And that's what saved his life and probably mine. So that's what I'm asking you to do, is prepare yourself. Ask, what if today is today? That's what I'm asking you. That's what this class is all about. Our brains tend to interpret information as if it is part of everyday experience. Because of this, people tend to underestimate both the likelihood of a disaster and the possible effects of it. It takes time for the brain to process the novel information and recognize that it's a threatening situation. That's what we're talking about. If you're just out and about and you're in the twilight zone and you're walking around Walmart and all of a sudden gunfire clicks off, you're gonna stop and go, what was that? You know, was that gunfire? Was that fireworks? When Ronald Reagan got shot, most of the people that I'm probably talking to maybe weren't born then. I don't know, but Darlene and I were, and I remember, you know, watching that over and over again. And even then, people were like, everybody interviewed us, I thought it was fireworks. I thought it was fireworks. And if you've ever seen that shooting, watch it. If you haven't seen it, maybe you probably can Google it now and get it, but watch. And there's a couple people in that video that respond immediately, you know, immediately. And it's the Secret Service guy who pushes him in the car, and it's another guy who steps in front of him and takes a bullet for him, gets shot in the stomach, another Secret Service agent. Everybody else there, when them shots started ringing off, ducked, and, you know, they were processing it. Hey, what's happening? What is that? Only two people that reacted were people trained to react. You know, they trained themselves to react, and they reacted immediately. Had they not reacted immediately, Ronald Reagan, he might have been assassinated that day. Probably would have been killed. But they reacted immediately, not because they're special, not because they're any better than you or me. It's because they prepare. They train. They ask themselves these questions. What if today? How many times have Secret Service agents been to taking the president everywhere and nothing happened? Nothing happened. Almost all the time, right? Almost all the time, nothing happened. So how easy is it for them to get in, to be complacent and to go, all right, we're just going to another hotel. He's going to talk. We're going to bring him out, blah, 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 and it's over. No, they ask themselves every single time before they do something like this, what if? What if this happens? What if that happens? I'm a SWAT commander, and we ask ourselves every time the SWAT team deploys, what if? Right, what if that person isn't there? What if that person runs out the front door? What if that person gets in a car and drives away? What if that person has a gun? What if that person has a knife? We plan, we prepare, and that's why it goes good, because we're prepared. We're prepared. I tell my wife all the time that the only time she ever tells me, hey, be safe or be careful over 25 years is when I'm going on SWAT call outs. And I always try to explain to her that I'm the safest right then, because we have spent 2 or 3 days planning for this event. That's when I'm at the safest. When I'm at the most risk is when I'm walking up to the car on a traffic stop that I have no idea who's inside. That's when I'm at the most risk. I'm not at the most risk when we plan and prepare, and everything is pre-planned. So that's what you want the brain to do, is to react. Those Secret Service agents reacted immediately, saved the president's life. Everybody else in that crew ducked, and it took 10 seconds for them to process it all, and that was too late. You got to decide what to do. If you don't have a pre-existing plan, it creates a serious problem, because the effects of life-threatening stress on your body system severely limit your ability to perceive information and make plans. You got to decide what to do. If a shooter comes through this door right now, where me and Darlene are, I've already sat in here and said, this is what I'm going to have to do. First thing I got to do is try to protect Darlene, right? Because I took an oath to do that. If me and Darlene were at a restaurant and her family was there, my family was there, and we didn't know each other, my priority is to what? Get the hell out of there, right? But I made these plans in this building when I came in. Hey, there's an exit over there. The reason I know that, because there's a big sign on it that says exit here. That's going to take me out of here. Know where you're at. Know your surroundings. Make that plan in your head. It doesn't matter if you're at church, a restaurant, the hospital, work, or whatever. Take 30 seconds out of your day to say, man, what if today is today? Because I'm telling you guys, I don't want to say that when I say it's coming, I don't mean for you specifically. I mean for our area. We're due, and it's coming. And what I want to do for a active shooter, there's no way around the fact that somebody's probably going to die. That's how it starts, but our job and our responsibility as police and as citizens is to make sure as few amount of people are casualties as we can have. That's our job. Remember, police normally don't stop the situation. Normally a citizen does, or the person commits suicide. By the time the police get there, 7 to 10 minutes later, a lot has happened. If you don't have that plan, that pre-plan in your head, it's going to take you that 10 seconds to make it. Would you rather make that plan 10 seconds, 15 seconds when you get to work, or would you rather make that plan in 10 or 15 seconds when the shooter comes through the door? Remember, guys, the difference between about 30 shots, 30 bullets. Every time you hear a gunfire, somebody's dying in there. Your job is to get the hell out of there, hide, or fight. When we're making decisions under duress, this is what we're talking about now. For me, when I was chasing that guy, he turned around and pulled a knife. When he turned around and pulled that knife, and I had my gun out already, it was just me and him. I was starting to go through this process to where I was no longer in condition white. I was probably in condition red on here when that happened, because I was starting to get that tunnel vision where all I saw was him. I didn't see anything else going on around me. I was focused in on him, and that's all I saw. Normally, all of our hearts are at condition white, right? Normally, our hearts are beating normal, 60 beats a minute, some a little bit more, some a little bit less. That's your resting heart rate. Now, condition yellow. That's kind of, as a policeman, you stay there kind of like when you're in crowds and all, because you just don't like people being in your area. You don't like people being in your zone. So you kind of, when you're around a lot of people, you start to get in that condition yellow, and you're looking behind you and looking beside you. And that's just a hazard of the job. Like I told you, I'm no different than you are. I'm just more nervous when people are behind me and beside me and all that, because I spent 25 years not wanting people to be behind me or beside me. I wanted to be in front of me. But at 90 beats a minute, your motor skills begin to deteriorate. This condition occurs when you're at a heightened state of alert. You're at the restaurant, you're sitting there, and in walks, it's a little different now with COVID, but picture it pre-COVID, where in walks somebody with a hat, sunglasses, and a face mask. Now I'm at condition yellow. I'm thinking, wait a minute, that person really ain't fitting in here to what's going on. I wonder what his deal is, or her deal. Condition red, complex motor skills deteriorate, peak physical performance and gross motor. You're stronger, you're faster, and will bleed less. An attack is imminent or in progress. What I told you earlier about the fight with the guy who was trying to take my gun, that was it. I was stronger than I ever have been. I was focused in on survival. My heart rate was up, everything. The only problem with that condition is that nothing else matters. The people around you don't matter. You're not seeing them. You're not hearing them. All you are is focused in on what you're dealing with at that moment. And that was my condition. My condition red was I didn't know what else was happening around me. All I knew was I had to survive that encounter. So I was stronger. I was faster. And if he would have got me, then the only good part about it was I would have bled less had he shot me for that moment, because my blood's starting to go to all the places that it needs to be to help me survive. Condition gray, 150 beats a minute, cognitive processing deteriorates, tunnel vision, auditory exclusion, time lapse. The environment is becoming overwhelming. If you've ever been in that situation, I relate it to shooting. If you're shooting on the range, it's loud, right? Guns are loud, but you're there, everybody's shooting, so they're loud all the time. So you're staying usually in a condition yellow, maybe at best. But when you're shooting on the street and gunfire starts going off, you go into condition gray relatively quick, and you start to, like, the gunshots aren't loud anymore, if you hear them at all. I can't tell you how many times police officers have been in shootings, and you ask them after, how many times did you shoot? And they may say, I think I shot twice. And you go 3 times, and you go over there and they got an empty magazine. They shot 15 times because they're in condition gray. Everything's starting to shut down on them. And then condition black, you're on system overload. You're freezing up. You don't know what to do. So your brain's telling you that telling your body, hey, you know what? This is getting a little bit overwhelming. We need to take a nap. So it shuts you down. The brain is trying to help the body survive. So the brain is sending all the oxygen and blood to the places that will help you survive. And it's telling you, hey, you need to go to sleep for a minute so this can happen. You definitely don't want to be condition black, because that just pretty much means you fainted at that point. You're down. You're done. Condition gray, you want to stay out of, but that's where you're going to fall into when all of a sudden there's an active shooter in there, and you don't know what to do. You ain't made your plan. I watch it. I might have missed a few slides back, is that we do like active training or practical training for this, and we put people in the building and we say, you got to remember, you're gonna play like you practice. I know if you ever heard that from a coach, you're gonna play like you practice. You're gonna play like you train. That's a fact. You're gonna fall back on your training. That's a fact. I didn't believe that until I was in that situation, and I fell back on my training. So however you train or however you practice is how you're going to react when the situation is real. So make sure that when you don't taking it for granted, you're not just going through the motions, that you're really making a plan, that you're really preparing yourself. Because when it happens, and I brought that up because when we do this training at the joint staffs over here in Harborview, we do a whole full-blown scenario and evacuate the buildings and all that. like 600 or 700 people. And I can't tell you how many times we're going through there shooting guns, shooting blanks. It's giving you the noise. It's giving you you're making it as real as we can possibly make it. I can't tell you how many times we went in there and we're going through, and here comes somebody back up the stairs or whatever. And you're like, hey, what are you doing? I left my cell phone. I left my cell phone up there. Well, I'm telling you guys, I know how important cell phones are. I know how important they are, but if your cell phone is worth dying for, then come back and get it. Come back and get it all day long. I know that's just a scenario, but if she practices that, she's going to do that. When she goes outside, she goes, oh, damn, my cell phone is up there. I got to have that in case my husband calls or my wife calls. I got to have that. No, leave it. Leave it. You can buy a new cell phone. Matter of fact, I believe sometimes the world will be a better place without it. Okay, guys, you got to see what's happening. This is what your body's going through. This is what your mind's going through. You got to see what's happening. You got to position yourself to respond. You got to say, okay, this is happening. This is what I'm going to do. You must determine, all right, this is what I'm going to do. This is it. And then you got to do it. You got to do it. And you got to do all these things from you must see it to you must perform it in a second. In a second. Those are your 10 or 15 seconds. If you got to go, damn, was that a gun? Did he just shoot that guy? Oh, y'all stop playing. That ain't real. And then you got to go, well, damn, it is real. He did shoot him because he's really bleeding. He's on the ground. I got to do something. And then you go, okay, this is what I do. I remember Major Buie said, I'm supposed to run. I'm supposed to run. Now you've lost all that time. And then you got to do what? You got to run. You got to run. If you got to physically go through these questions and ask yourself these questions, it's too late for you. You got to be able to go, boom, that just happened. This is what I got to do. And you got to do that in a second. That's the 10 or 15 seconds we're talking about, guys. When you get that, can't say it's enough about pre-planning, making a plan. What if today is today? What if today is today? Because today could very easily be today. I don't mean what if tomorrow is today. I don't mean what if 15 minutes from now is today. I mean, what if right now? It happens right this second. What am I going to do? How many of you guys go to restaurants with your kids and your husbands or wives, your grandkids, your family members, your friends that you care about? Do you care enough about them to make a quick plan, to spend 15, 20 seconds making a plan on what you're going to do if everything goes to pieces to help protect them? I was at Harbor Park last night with my grandson for a baseball game, and the whole time that's all I could think about is, man, what the heck am I going to do if something goes bad here? How can we survive this? Because I owe it to myself and I owe it to my grandson to survive it. Once you make the decision, once you decide that this is what I'm going to do, you got to do it. Once you make that decision, in SWAT, we have a saying that says, when you're wrong, stay wrong. That just means that if you're going through a door and you realize, I'm not supposed to be going in this room, that you back out halfway, and then you don't do that. You just keep going through the door because you got 10 people behind you that are going to push you through the door if you don't go through because they're already committed. Once you commit to acting, act. If you're going to run your tail off. Run as hard as you can run. Get as far away from here as you can. When you decide, hey, I got to hide like you ain't never hid before. And stay hidden until the police find you. Because we will. We'll go through the building 15 times if we have to until we know that we've searched every nook and cranny of the building. Stay hidden until the police find you. Don't think, I spent 15 minutes, I can probably sneak out, because you don't know where the shooter's at. You don't know if it's resolved itself. You don't know what's going on. You got a pretty good spot, stay there. Barricade the hell out of the door with everything humanly possible. Arm yourself. Fire extinguishers, laptop, whatever in that room is a good blunt object to hit somebody with, arm yourself. So if they do get in there, then you're ready to fight. You're ready for the next step. Okay? The faster that we get through the phases of what just happened and what do I need to do, the better our chances are of survival. Take the baseball bat to the plate. If you go up there with no bat, you ain't going to get a hit. Period. If you don't swing the bat, you're not going to get a hit. Give yourself a chance. Give yourself a chance of survival. And that's by acting, by doing something. The faster we can get through the phases of denial and deliberation, the quicker we'll reach that decisive moment and begin to take action that can save your life and the lives of others around you. Remember what we talked about is that these situations are stopped most of the time by citizens, by people. When it happens, people are going to die. People are going to die. Our job is, in a perfect world, we don't want anybody to die. But we know when we're responding to these that somebody's already dead. We want to limit that number. We want to limit that number. Okay, we understand. We're not going to talk too much about this, guys, when the police arrive, because I told you the most important thing. I can tell you, just if you're leaving the building, the police are saying, show your hands, show your hands. We've all saw the videos of people leaving buildings and their hands are on top of their head and they're running and, they're listening because they're scared. I remember Columbine, all them kids coming out and them kids were listening. How many times in any of our lives do you see that many high school kids listening at one time? That's because they're truly scared. They're truly afraid. The police are going to come. The police are going to go. Let me tell you what we're going to do here in Suffolk is we're going to show up. The first police car that gets here. First of all, with Columbine, that's, what they did there. They went, I don't know what the age group is that I'm talking to, but if you remember Columbine, the plan was for the police is get there, surround the building, and wait for the SWAT team. That's the plan. Wait for the SWAT team. Them guys were inside Columbine shooting people for 45 minutes. 45 minutes. But I'm not trashing Columbine because that was everybody's plan when Columbine occurred. Surround and wait for the SWAT team. And I'm telling you, I've been a SWAT guy for 22 years now, and I know how long it takes our SWAT team to get somewhere and get assembled, get all their gear together, and respond. And it's going to be 45 minutes to an hour before they can do that, get everything there that they need. That doesn't mean police aren't responding and doing, but that's how long it's going to take a SWAT team to get there, just like it did in Columbine. Our plan after that was like, man, that's too long. We can't stand around outside while people get shot. We got to go inside and confront the shooter. So we came up with 4 men. You get the call when 4 cops get there, you go. You form a diamond formation and you go. Our job at that point is to go clear that building, neutralize the threat, stop the killing, right? The only way to stop the killing is to stop the killer. So the police going in there, they're not worried about wounded people. They're pointing people in the right direction. Hey, go this way, go this way, go this way, get out of here. They're not worried about helping wounded people. They're worried about stopping the killing. And their only job is to neutralize that threat. So we went through that, and then we realized that's too long. How long does it take for 4 policemen to get there? In Las Vegas or Los Angeles, not long. But for Suffolk, 430 square miles, on any given day, your 4th officer may be coming to here from Chuckatuck. How long does that take? Can you stand around and wait? Because we said it, hey, every time a gun shoots, somebody dies. So we're like, I'm not going to cuss. Almost. I'm not gonna cuss today. We decided that we can't do that. So now the rule is the first police officer that gets here makes entry. If it's me and I get here and there's shooting going on, I make entry. I go try to neutralize that threat. First officer, and that's the only way to do it. That's the only way to do it. And, as a police officer, you gotta remember when we're talking about when the police arrive, you're stressed because somebody's being shot at. You're stressed because there's dead bodies on the ground that are your friends. You're stressed because you don't know what to do. Now the police officer is coming in, he or she is stressed because they don't know where a shooter's at. Somebody else in there has got a gun. They don't know who the bad guy is. It could be anybody. You might have a vague description, you might not. Now they're just looking for a person with a gun. So remember that when we talk about when the police arrive, you're stressed out, the police are stressed out. That's a bad combination. So when the police officer tells you to do something, do it. Do it. Not because the police officer is always right. It's because that police officer is stressed. And the last thing in the world we want is somebody to get shot that doesn't need to get shot. That isn't involved at all, just because we want to argue with the policeman because the policeman may have yelled at them or did this, do that. Do what the police tell you to do. And we'll fix everything else after. But I want you to keep in mind that you guys are stressed out. The officers are stressed out. And that's a dangerous combination, when you bring them together. So please just do, what they ask you to do. We talked about that one person coming in. You might see Chesapeake police officers. You may see Portsmouth police officers. You may see Suffolk police officers. You may see Virginia Beach police officers. You don't know. It's going to be a multi-agency response. When Virginia Beach happened, Virginia Beach, every agency sends people, to help, because you don't know how long it's going to go. You don't know how extensive it is until you start looking into it. Would officers always be in a uniform? Would they always look like me? In Suffolk, we give every one of our police officers a shirt that they can throw on when they're off duty or whatever. It says Suffolk Police on the back, Suffolk Police on the front. It's just a sleeveless shirt to identify them as a police officer. And in the event that they have to respond to something like that. Now, can anybody get a shirt like that? Yeah. But does it help where you don't have, because as a police officer going in, all of a sudden I see somebody in a t-shirt and blue jeans with a gun. I don't know who they are. We've had it happen before where police officers shoot police officers. Remember what we talked about? That's the officers, when they first get there, are looking to neutralize the threat. They're not looking to help wounded and all that. If you've been hurt, you've been shot, they're going to try to lead you in the right direction on the fly. They're going to tell you, go out that way, go out that way. Where's the shooter? Where's the shooter? And that's all information they're gathering on the fly. They're just moving. And if you've been shot in the arm, they're going to tell you, hey, your legs work. Go, get out of here. They're not going to stop and help you, not the first ones. But then as soon as we know the threat is either contained or neutralized, we're going to send officers and medics in to assist the wounded quickly. Because we have learned that in the past, that because of the delayed response, that people are bleeding to death. Now all of our officers carry go bags, carry tourniquets. Or I may come by you, and if you're hurt, and I'll say, here's a tourniquet, put it on. It's something you can put on yourself. Right? And then we have our medics now that are trained to respond with our police officers. So they come in together and start helping the wounded quicker now. Chaotic scene, guys. Imagine shooter, dead people, blood, fire alarms going off, smoke detectors are going off. Everything's gone haywire. They gotta positively identify you as not a threat. Remember, their stress, your stress. We talked about this already. Just do what they ask you to do. We'll fix anything else later. And I know there's policies. I know supervisors make clear we have policies that we have in place. Once the police officers come in there and start giving you instructions, that trumps your policy. Just do what the officer tells you to do. We'll go through that. The aftermath. Now, we're going to talk about this a little bit because for you guys, I know this is that your wheelhouse is. If you see somebody at work or at home or anywhere else that you feel like maybe having an issue, we have to say something. You know, I can't tell you how many times after these active shooter events that we hear, you know, I knew Major Buie was having a problem. He's been acting weird lately. You know, I knew he was having a problem. But, you know, I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want him to get mad at me or whatever. We have to know that if we see somebody, I know you guys do probably better than anybody, but it's important that we don't, you know, the old saying, if you see something, say something. We have to do that. If you feel like somebody's having an issue or is, you know, is having problems, say something to somebody. And maybe, you know, if it's one of my friends and I say, you know, I know they're having a problem. I can't really talk to them, but Darlene can talk to them. And just say something, because we may, you know, you don't know what somebody's thinking or what somebody's going through until you ask them. You know, just on all these events, I've always heard that, you know, I wondered why Major Buie was, you know, target practicing more than normal in his backyard, why he went out and bought 5 new guns, or why he's been collecting ammo or stuff like that. If you get stuff like that's going on, it's okay to talk to people and ask them, hey, what the deal is. The Las Vegas shooter, I watched that yesterday. This guy, over a period of a couple of days, brought 8 to 10 bags, suitcases to his hotel room, and valet people helped him. Hey, let me help you get that. Let me help you get that. It's unloaded, and nobody ever asked a question. Dude, how many clothes do you need? You know, he just kept bringing in new suitcases. He wasn't bringing out old ones. He just kept bringing in. And then he rented the room. He rented 2 rooms, 2 adjoining rooms. You know, and I know that I mean, most of us would think, hey, that's not weird or whatever, but we're looking at it at hindsight, right? And hindsight, that's very weird that somebody would do that, you know, and no red flags were thrown up. If you see something, say something. If it's important, it'll be addressed. If it's nothing, then it's nothing. You know, it's nothing, but it's more important, especially in today's world, that we try to help people. And I'll drive this home one more time. When you go somewhere, know where you're going. Know what's around you. You know, I know it sounds freaky, but when I walk into a restaurant, I'm immediately assessing the situation. I'm immediately looking at the people there. I'm immediately looking at where people are sitting. Immediately looking at where the door's at. I'm immediately knowing where I'm sitting. When the lady says, hey, do you have a preference? I say, yeah. So where would that be? My back to the wall, right? That's exactly where I want to be. And my wife and I go so much. She's, after 25 years, she's gotten kind of the hang of it. But at times still, she'll sit somewhere. I go, no, let me sit there. You sit over here. And there's a reason for that. You know, it's because I want to see what's going on around me all the time. And I know it sounds paranoid as hell, but that's what I'm asking you to do, is know your surroundings. Pay attention. Who's standing around you? If you're standing in the bank and it's 90 degrees and 2 guys walk in with a trench coat and big boots on, is that kind of weird? Know your surroundings. Know what's going on around you. Have a plan. What if today is today? What if they come through that door right now with a gun and start shooting people? Have I done anything to prepare myself for that? Have I done anything? Because if you haven't, then you've lost 10 to 15 seconds. And that's not me saying, hey, you're going to lose it, because I know some people are listening going, I ain't losing 10 or 15 seconds. I'm going to react. Yes, you are. You're going to think you don't lose 10 or 15 seconds because you're not thinking at all. You're going to lose it. You can't help it. You have to prepare yourself. You have to have a plan. Use willpower. When it comes time to run, hide, or fight, or deny, defend, avoid, use willpower. Do it with 100%. 100%. Run hard, hide good, and fight hard. Don't fight fair. Bite, scratch, kick, whatever you got to do to survive, that's what you do. Choose to survive. You know, or some people, sometimes it's just going to happen, but guys, carry the bat up to the plate. Carry the bat up to the plate. Give yourself a chance. You know, give yourself a chance. What if today is today? What if it happens right now? Am I ready? Do I know? Put a note on your cubicle or in your office that just write what if on there. What if? That's all you got to do. You might be the only one that knows what that means, but when you read it, you're going to ask yourself, what if? What if it's today? Am I ready? And with 30 seconds of planning, I can save myself 10 to 15 seconds of reaction time. And that may save your life. It's the difference between me shooting 10 to 20 times or me shooting twice. Would you rather, I don't know what y'all can see there. You see I'm standing right to this chair. Would you rather me be right here with a gun and shoot you or shoot at you 3 feet away? Or would you rather me shoot at you 20 feet away? That's the difference. And I can tell you from being a firearm instructor, from being a guy who shoots a lot, is that I'm not going to miss you from here. No matter how bad I am, I'm not going to miss you from 3 feet away. But from 20 feet away, 30 feet away, 40 feet away, your chances of survival get better, better, and better, because I know how people shoot. You know, they're more prone to miss you further away, right? So you want to be further away. Get away from the problem. And Gabrielle, for me, that pretty much is what I wanted to talk about today. I don't know if anybody has sent you questions or has questions, or whether you can even hear me, or whether I just talked for an hour and a half and nobody heard me. But I'm ready for any questions you guys have.
I can hear you, and I'm typing in. If anybody has any questions, they can go ahead and type them in, and I'll read them.
Okay. They're lucky that this isn't live and in the classroom, because I can tell if they're sleeping in the classroom or not paying attention. I can't tell when they're at home.
People are saying, I'm awake. We hear you. Fantastic. This was great. Very informative. They appreciate you. Other people are saying thank you and fantastic presentation. I'm also going to hold up the what if on my post-it note.
What if, man? That's the key.
There you go.
That's that simple, right? A sticky note. Put it right there by your keyboard. What if? And guys, I swear to you that it's going to give you a much better chance of surviving than if you don't do it. Because the 10 or 15 seconds we talked about is real, you know, because I've seen it. I know what's going to happen when, you know, in a class. I know what's going to happen when I pull my gun out and shoot. I know what Darlene's going to do. You know, she's going to duck because she's not ready for it. And she, for good reason, because I'm not going to do it. Maybe. I mean, I just can't tell you how important it is to plan, because I was a skeptic too, and didn't believe that when they tell you, when your coach tells you, you're going to play like you practice, or they say, hey, you're going to fall back on your training. I'm like, oh, BS, you know, that's just y'all telling me what you have to tell me. But I'm telling you from experience that you will fall back on your training. You will fall back on your plan. You will, because I've done it, on numerous occasions. And unbeknownst to me, it works. It saved my life, and it saved the life of a burglar. Because without it, he'd either stabbed me or I would have shot him, one or the other. So, and the only reason it worked is because I trained and I prepared, to have that gun out when it was needed. And I did it without thinking. That's what I'm asking you to do. React without thinking. And you can't react without thinking if you don't pre-plan. You're not going to. Your brain ain't built that way. Your brain ain't built that way. So please, if you don't do anything else, Gabrielle just led by example. What if? Put it right there, man. And I do it. I'm a policeman, and I've been doing this for a long time. And I told you I went to the Tides game, and I spent half my time wondering how I was going to protect my grandson if it went bad. And I'm telling you, and I wasn't armed. I didn't have a gun, but I was ready. I was ready as I could be, in that situation. So I knew what we were going to do. And I asked myself that all the time. And I remember being at Lowe's one time, and I was with my grandson again, because we hang out a lot together. We're both 4 at heart. He really is 4, and I am 4 at heart. So we're at Lowe's, and I just happened to, I was in the gardening section, and we were in there, and he's running around because he just likes, we just walk around Lowe's. He gets in the showers, the ones that are the floor models. He gets in the showers, and I lock him in there, and you can see him. And I go shopping while I lock him in the showers, and not really. But I was there in the garden section, and it struck me. I was like, damn, what if today's today at Lowe's? And then it hit me. I was like, dude, I'm in the gardening section. I got pitchforks. I got a shovel. I got hose. I got hammers. I said, man, I told my dad that coming here today. I said, I could have actually, if an active shooter would have came that day, I could have killed him and buried him all in the same aisle. I had all the right tools to do it. But I was planning already what I would do to protect me and my grandson, and I looked around and found my weapons and was good to go. But if I do it as a policeman, you guys should do it. And I'm not giving you any advice that I don't follow myself, that I don't do myself every time I go somewhere. And it takes 30 seconds. You ain't got to be crazy. You ain't got to write out an ops plan and be paranoid and go crazy with it. 30 seconds. What if today is today? I'm going to hit him with my coffee pot. I'm going to stab him with my letter opener. I'm going to hit him with my staple gun. I'm going to hit him with a fire extinguisher. I'm going to throw hot coffee on him. Whatever the case may be, look around, take a look. This is how I can protect myself. Or this is where I can run away and get away. This is the quickest way out of this building. Or this is why I'm going to barricade this building if it happens. These are the chairs and stuff. Because your office don't change that much, right? It don't change that much day to day. But just please think about these things wherever you go. Church, concerts, shopping, schools, work. It's all over, guys. Wherever you go, when you get ready to leave, just ask yourself, what if today is that day? And I know that it'll give you at least a 1% chance of survival. You're taking the bat. Because if you don't put that sticky note in your office, I ain't letting you carry the bat up to the plate no more. You got to stand there with no bat. I appreciate y'all letting me come out and talk to you, as usual. And anytime, any questions you guys have, Darlene has my number. She can pose them to me. I'm happy to come back anytime and talk to you.
We do have 1 or 2 questions that have popped up in the chat if you got a couple minutes, Major Buie.
Okay, I do. I got time.
Okay. There's a couple people that have been asking what's the best way if there is an active shooter. Is it good to zigzag? Is it good to hide in my office? Do I need to have a predetermined location? Generalize like that.
The answer is what we talked about earlier is that what I want you to do is run away first. If you know where the shots are coming from or you know where the danger is, run away from the danger. Create the distance, between you and the person. but you have to know where the threat's coming from before you can run away, because you might run into the threat, so if you know where the threats come from, run away. And if you're in your office and you can't run away and you're thinking it's too dangerous, then hide in your office, but barricade that door. Remember, make that shooter or that threat use time to get to you. If they had, because they're on a clock. The police are coming, so they're on a clock. If they got to work their tails off to get into your office, it ain't worth it. I'm going to bump down to the next person, to an easier target. So the harder you make it for that person to either get to you or find you, the better off you are. And there's another part of that question I think I missed.
Somebody was saying the zigzag if you're running.
Running. I mean, imagine if you were trying to shoot something and it was going back and forth and running hard. It's hard to hit, right? Make yourself as hard to hit as you can possibly make it. I can tell you, and I've been shooting for a lot. Like I'm not a gun nut by any stretch of imagination, but I'm proficient with a gun. So I know, and I see police officers shoot all the time, and I know how the scores go way down when the distance is created and they become moving targets. A moving target is much harder to hit than a stationary target. So remember, if you run away, guys, and I'm going to cuss, run your ass off. Run away. Don't screw around. Don't go, oh, my hamstring. I ain't ran in 2 years. I pulled a hamstring. Run, and run as hard and as far as you can go. Don't stop. And I'm telling you that moving targets, no matter they're moving zigzagging or moving away from you, are much harder to hit than a stationary target. The scores will go way down. What I mean by that, if he shoots 20 times, he may hit you moving away like that. He may hit you twice if he's lucky, depending on the weapon, depending on what they're shooting. But yeah, zigzag, hit the ground, get back up, but create distance, man. Make it hard. Make it hard for the shooter to find you, to get to you, or to shoot you. The harder you make it, the better your chances are going to be. But my point of this class is, let's not make it easy. Let's not freeze up and just sit there and go, God, please don't shoot me. Please don't shoot me. If you got nothing else left, then beg for your life. But let that be the last thing you do, because these shooters aren't known for their compassion, right? I'm not known to come in here and go, boom, I'm going to shoot Darlene, but I got Gabriel. Yeah, you ain't been bad to me. You've been okay. I'm going to let you slide and go to the next one. No, it's usually bang, bang, bang. As many people as I can shoot, as quick as I can shoot them. So make it difficult. Make it hard for them. So to answer that question, zigzag, yes. Whatever you got to do. But remember, cover and concealment, right? Cover stops a bullet. Concealment, if you ain't got cover, is the next best thing. At least they can't see me. I hope that answered that.
There's a couple of our agencies. We have sister CSBs on here, not just Western Tidewater, and they're on second, third story floors. So they're wondering if they're trying to plan their escape in their mind, the what if. Is it better for them to go down the stairwell? Should they hop in an elevator? That's been a couple questions.
That's a great question. And, where is your shoot? Because you have a lot of places are multi-story. That's what the point is. You got to know where the shooter is at. If you don't, you're better off to barricade in place, to shelter in place, and prepare yourself for the fight. But to answer the elevator and stair question, that's really a good question. Is what are we teaching? Like, if it's a fire, don't use the elevator, right? Go down the stairs. But I can tell you, like in Columbine, that a lot of people were shot in stairwells because that's what they use. But it's a little different in a school setting because the kids in schools normally don't use elevators. They're only used for specific things. They use the stairs all the time. So if And I'll tell you what I think as a police officer and in my own personal opinion. I would feel better in taking the stairs because that gives me some freedom, right? That gives me a choice. I can go halfway down the stairs and go, shit, back up. Back up, it's bad down here. Once you're in that elevator and you hit the floor, them doors are going to open. And when they open, if there's a bad person on the other side, you're in a box. You're limited, and there's nothing in that elevator to help you fight, right? Except your hands. So if it were me, and I'll tell you this, if it were me and I was with my grandson, who was the most valuable possession I have, I would take the stairs.
Okay. There's another question. We have some other folks on that are asking if they should prepare like a go bag with like a tourniquet, or is it just assume that all police officers are going to carry one of those for an active shooter scenario?
If ever you can rely on yourself, do it. Do it. Remember what I told you, the police are going to get there 7 to 10 minutes later. We're coming, but we very rarely get there in time. More and more nowadays, we're seeing shooters engage police. They're just waiting. Because the suicide is the suicide, right? Either do yourself or you want the police to do you. That's so they're willing to fight it out more often. But if I would say this once again on a very personal level, a go bag. I don't know who posed that question, but that's an awesome idea. That's an awesome idea because you're relying on yourself now. Tourniquets are small. You can carry them in your purse. You can carry them in your pocket. You can carry them anywhere. They're small. So, yeah, I mean, not only will that tourniquet, can it be self-administered by you to save yourself, you can save somebody else. So whoever posed that question, very good. And damn right, carry a go bag. I like it.
Good deal. The last question comes from some of our residential folks. They're asking, we have houses that we house people at that have residents as well as staff. So they're wondering if somebody comes in, what's the best course of action for them to take as well as trying to protect consumers? Do you have recommendations for that?
Yeah, and the question, I guess, is kind of like being in a hospital setting that if an active shooter comes in, what's their responsibility to their clients or to their patients, right? And I'll tell you this, and I'm not gonna, and I didn't say this in the when I was talking, and I probably should have, is when you're in a building, and I'm in a building like this, I have an obligation to protect Darlene because I'm a police officer, and it's gonna look very bad on video when I run out and leave Darlene in here, right? That's bad optics. Patients, I know you guys have an obligation to your patients. I don't know what that obligation is legally, but it's always, to me, it's a personal choice. I'm talking about like in a business setting. I'm at work, the active shooter comes and I'm like, hey, Darlene, come on, let's go. Let's get out of here. And Darlene's froze up like a popsicle. She's almost conditioned black. She's ready to go. And I'm like, Darlene, come on, we got to go. And Darlene won't go. I'm like, Darlene, last chance, because I'm getting ready to leave you here. It's a personal choice. Would I leave Darlene? No, because I like her. I wouldn't leave her. But you make a personal choice as citizens. Like you say, hey, you gonna go? Because I'll tell you this, is that if they're froze up and you stay with them, just 2 of you are going to die instead of 1. You got to make that choice. But for patients, I don't know what the legality of that is, what obligation you have to stay with. But I know what you guys' dedication is. I know what that is. You're no more going to leave that patient in there to be harmed than I am, because you guys are in the profession you're in because you care about people. So I don't know the legality of it, but it's a personal choice on whether you leave a patient or you stay with a patient or or whatever the case may be. I don't know how that plays out. I think it's a personal choice. I'm not going to judge you because I've been shot at before. I know how scary that is. It's some scary stuff. And anybody who's going to judge you has never been shot at, because it's scary. When a bullet comes whistling by you and you don't hear the gunshot, you hear the bullet, that's a scary thing. And I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to Monday morning quarterback anybody. You know, if you choose to get the hell out of there, then I'm not going to judge you. If you choose to stay, I'm not going to judge you either. It's a personal choice. And I don't know if I even answered that question.
I think you did. I feel like you did. I don't know if they would agree or not, but I feel like you did.
This subject is a very passionate thing for me, because I think it's something that where it's a pandemic of people picking up guns and going and shooting people. And as citizens, as law-abiding citizens, we need to know everything we need to know in order to try to protect ourselves. You know, and that doesn't mean everybody go out and buy a gun and carry a gun to work. That just means we need to arm each other with the best information we can arm each other with to survive these events. Because I'm sick and tired of bad people grabbing guns and going in and killing people.